I'm 25 and I'm female, and oh boy, I've been so eager just to move back home ever since I moved away. I know a lot of people always dream of leaving their hometown behind and living it up on the other side of the world, but I've always loved where I grew up. I did not come from some podunk town in the middle of nowhere, so that probably contributes to it. I'm from a relatively big city, and I've always liked it that way. I've always had everything right at my doorstep, and even though I adore little trips to the countryside, I'm always going to be a city girl at heart. I could never dream of calling another place home, at least not forever. When I left for college, the plan was always to come back home, but I got an amazing job right off the bat, and probably a bigger contributing factor, I met an amazing man, Frasier. See, he's everything I've ever wanted in a partner, and wrapped up in one pretty package was an adorable accent slapped on top. He's just as much as my home as my actual home. So when he agreed to move down with me to my hometown, I was over the moon excited. He works one of those super important remote software engineer jobs that don't make much sense from an external perspective. But he loves to work, and it means that he can work from anywhere in the world. So moving was not really an issue. We stuck around Europe for a few years after I graduated, mostly for my work, but also so he could be close home for a little while longer. This year, we finally made the leap, packed up and shipped ourselves across the pond back home. We've been back for about 3 weeks, and it's been hectic. Well, between unpacking, visiting family, and starting new jobs, settling in is taking some time, but we're definitely getting there. 2 nights ago, Frasier finally met my friends. Obviously, he's already met all the friends that I had in Europe. We went to the same university, and even though he graduated just a few years ahead of me, we've got a lot of friends in common. Most of his are scattered all over the world, though they keep in touch through their video games, and the majority of mine from college are still in Europe. What I'm talking about now are my friends from home. I had a very tight-knit friend group all through middle school and high school, and ended up consisting of most of the girls' volleyball team, of which I had been the captain, and a handful of football players. The ones I was always closest to were my 2 best friends, Vera and Gavin. Gavin and I grew up together since his family lived right next door, and Vera, we met on the first day of middle school and stuck with ever since. Like me, Vera studied in Europe, though she came home a lot sooner than I did. Gavin stuck close to home since he was always meant to take over his dad's business. Communication with Gabe has been a little spotty as a result. Needless to say, I was really excited for Frasier to meet everyone. Vera's the only one of my friends from home that he knows, and now that we're settling down, I want him to have friends here too. Well, that meeting did not go well. To say it was awkward would be the understatement of the century. We met up for dinner at this cute Italian place near my parents' house that my family used to go to all the time, so I was in a really good mood. Only the girls were there where we arrived, and things honestly went fine for a bit. I mean, the awkwardness of a first introduction was there, but everyone was excited and welcoming, and it was nice. Then guys all showed up together. Immediately introducing all of them was way more awkward than it's been with the girls. I'll chalk it up to first meeting jitters, or the fact that I had not seen all of them in a while, but it was a very weird, tense thing. I don't know, Frasier says they were standoffish and rude, but I'm hoping that maybe their jokes were just a little awkward and did not land because they didn't know each other yet. Well, I'd say Gavin and Frasier seem to clash the most. Frasier's more on the silent, introverted side, while Gavin's always been a little more boisterous and extroverted. It works in some settings, but it can be a little overwhelming for newcomers. I'll admit that I was hoping that their temperaments would sort of balance each other out because they got along really well with my brother, so surely they could not be that different. But they just clashed all night long. I spent the whole night trying to keep a pleasant conversation, keep it flowing, and Cody, Gavin's best friend, who went to high school with us, definitely was not helping since he spent the whole night trying to flirt with Vera. They broke up earlier this year, and so my focus was split between redirecting him and Frasier and Gavin. Safe to say, neither of us had a very nice time. When we got home, I asked Frasier what he honestly thought of everyone, and he told me that he could not see himself spending much time with anyone there. According to him, the girls were fine. But once the guys got there, it just turned into a weird testosterone fest, and he wasn't interested in people like that. To make matters worse, there had actually been another person to the dinner. Shortly before leaving Europe, Frasier asked me to marry him. Well, I said yes, obviously, and we've announced our engagement to our immediate family already, but have yet to make an official announcement to everyone else. We thought it would be nice to tell my friends at dinner. Unfortunately, it ended up being so awkward the whole night that we both silently decided not to bring it up. And everything's going the opposite of the way I want. Every time I've thought about moving back home, I've pictured finally being able to hang out with my friends again. Only with Frasier by my side. You know, for the entirety of our relationship, we've had so many mutual friends that have always felt like our friends. I want him to have that here too. Yesterday, my brothers, Gavin and I, met up for lunch since we don't work too far from each other. It was great. Gavin was completely normal the whole time, and there was none of the awkwardness from dinner. When we were done, he offered to walk me to my car and we talked. You know, I just told him how much it meant to me for Frasier to get along with the group. Basically, I told him everything that I've written in this post, and he seemed super receptive. Well, guys, he asked if Frasier was simply the person I wanted just to spend the rest of my life with. And I told him about the engagement, and he was shocked. But he congratulated me and seemed genuinely happy. He told me that he would do his best to make sure that Frasier felt welcome if I could convince him to give him another chance. It's only been 2 days since dinner, and I only spoke to Gavin yesterday. So, guys, obviously, I'm going to give Frasier a little time before I try to convince him to give my friend another chance. We've always had what I would like to consider a good communication between us, but he made his first impression on everything quite clear, and I don't want to seem like I'm pushing him to make himself uncomfortable, especially right after he just moved across the ocean for me. I also know this isn't something I can leave alone. I'd never forgive myself if I did not at least try to get him to go along with him. A lot of them have been my friends since before I can even remember, and they've played a really big part in who I am today. You know, being back home again with them after all these years is something I've dreamt of since I left. I want them to give each other a chance, and with Gavin open to it, all that's left is convincing Frasier. I just don't want to be nagging girlfriend in the process. Maybe I'm overthinking this and I just need to give it a little time. But I also just want someone to give me an objective outside opinion so I can actually know how to move forward. Guys, what should I do? Update number 1. I don't know what to say. I don't even know why I'm making this post right now, and for everyone who commented calling me horrible, a whiny brat who doesn't deserve a man willing to move across an ocean for me, you got your wish. About a month ago, I thought things were going well. I thought everything was working out after my first post where I spoke to Gavin about everything and giving Frasier another chance. And, I spoke to Frasier after I made the post. I even showed him the stupid thing so we could laugh about all the weird comments and DMs that I was getting. He told me that he knew how important it was to me for him to give everyone a chance. So we did. They did too. The next couple of times we saw the group, things were absolutely great. I could tell that both Gavin and Frasier were putting in real effort to connect. I appreciated it. We even got to announce our engagement to everyone all together like we planned on to begin with. Everyone was so excited. The girls insisted on having a girls' night to celebrate, and of course I wanted to, and when the boys heard about our plan, they instead insisted on having one with Frasier for equality. I thought it was a pretty good idea, and Frasier actually seemed like he was looking forward to it. When he texted me that he was crashing at Cody's place afterwards, I was actually happy because I thought all of them were finally getting along the way that I had hoped that they would. Well, I didn't think I would be answering the door the next morning to Gavin telling me that my fiance had cheated. But that's what I got. Guys, I actually got home around 1 the night before, so I was looking forward to a lie-in, thinking maybe Frasier would join me when we get home. Instead, Gavin texted me that he was at the front door. Well, he even said that there was no easy way to tell me this, what he had seen Frasier do, but he could not keep it from me. Frasier had spent the entire time at the bar they met up at on his phone texting someone. Gavin said that he thought he was texting me, and he wanted to tease Frasier about it, but he seemed really defensive about it, so Gavin dropped it. Then why they would go down to the club afterwards? They were all dancing, and after a while he couldn't find Frasier. And since everyone had been drinking at this point, he went looking for him just to make sure he was okay. He found him by the bar, with a girl in his lap, and yes, they were kissing. Gavin ripped her off immediately, but he said Frasier was drunk and angry and tried to fight him, and they almost got kicked out of the club when Frasier punched Cody. So, they just went on and dragged him right out of the club. Just like that, and back to Cody's place, and he didn't want to have to tell me while I was out celebrating and Frasier was still drunk. But he knew what I needed to know. Obviously, I didn't want to believe him. I'd spent 5 years of my life with this man on the other side of the world, and not once had he said or done anything to make me doubt him, and I mean ever. Never, not once. Well, not once, man. Then Gavin showed me the video Cody had taken of Frasier, sitting at the bar with some woman on his lap, practically eating each other's faces. Gavin's in the video too, storming towards the two of them before the video cuts out, as Cody's also rushing towards them. I asked Gavin to send me the video and told him I wanted to be alone for a while. Frasier still passed out on Cody's couch, and I'm too ashamed to call him or anyone else. How am I supposed to explain that man that I've been begging everyone to give a chance was cheating on me while my friends were celebrating our engagement? I don't know what I'm going to say to him when he comes home. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's been 2 days since I last updated, and I don't know if anyone is actually interested in reading these updates. But I can bring myself to talk to my friends or family about any of this, and everyone here seems more than willing to provide their opinions. So maybe this is a toxic way to deal with everything. Frasier denied it. When I asked to see his text because Gavin had said that he had spent the entire time at the bar texting, who sure wasn't me, Frasier asked me why I couldn't trust him. I told him that he knew perfectly well why I don't trust him. I trusted him for 5 years, and I trust him to be the one I spent the rest of my life with. That he broke in that trust. He had told me he didn't do anything, and he remembered getting to the club, then dancing, then waking up in Cody's apartment with a headache. If he couldn't remember anything, then how could he say definitely that he wasn't cheating? If he hadn't done anything, he could show me his text. There weren't any text. The last one that he'd sent that night were a fit check to me, then an ETA to Gavin. Everything else was from the next day, including multiple texts and a couple of missed calls to me, all unanswered. I know how easy it is to delete a text, and I know he's not exactly a slouch with technology. He would know how to do something as simple as that. He didn't understand why I couldn't believe him. I told him what Gavin had told me and gave him the chance to own up to it. What he had done was unforgivable, but lying about it was just adding to the fire. I needed him to tell me the truth, and he could not. So I showed him the video, and somehow he had the gall to look even more shocked than I'd felt. He told me that he would never cheat on me. He's been drunk loads of times before, and he would go out without me so many times over the years, and not once had he been unfaithful. He said he didn't look at anyone else but me. How can I believe him while that video was staring me right in the face? I packed a to-go bag, and before he got back, I told him that I was leaving and I grew up here. I had places I could go, and he could stay in the apartment even. I'm currently at my parents' house, sitting in my childhood bedroom, telling the internet about how my fiancé cheated on me. My parents just think that we had a fight, and I haven't told them what happened yet. I just told them we would sort it out, and I don't know how to. I just keep watching the video again and again. To make matters worse, Gavin texted me to say that he has something he needs to show me. He says it's about Frasier, and I haven't spoken to Gavin since he came over 3 days ago. I haven't spoken to Frasier since the same day, and I don't know what else Gavin could show me now. But I can't even imagine that anything could make this better, so it has to be something worse. Update number 3. Hey guys. Well, oh man, I just feel like my world has been flipped upside down so many times recently that I don't know what to think anymore. 2 weeks ago, I had the perfect engagement with my perfect partner, and everything was finally falling into place. A week ago, all of that was ripped away from me, with the only consolation being that I at least knew that my friends would have my back even when I was not around. Well, none of that's true, and I'm left with nothing. I said in my last update that whatever Gavin wanted to show me would just be worse. And it was. See, Cody found a phone in his apartment the day after our night out. It wasn't his. It wasn't Gavin's. It quickly became clear that it was Frasier's. He had every dating app imaginable on it, and he had been active. All of his profiles dated back to a few weeks after we moved here. Every single one of his profiles mentioned being new in town and looking for a tour guide. I should have been even more heartbroken, and for a while I was. I asked Gavin to leave me alone for a while, and I went through every single profile. Each picture crushed my heart more than I could have noticed. Every single image was a bit blurry, a little too cropped, and every single one was from his public Instagram account or mine. They were screenshots. I went back and looked at the messages, and the earliest ones are from the days after I told Gavin about the engagement. It was all too convenient, wasn't it? I had one concrete piece of evidence against Frasier, and everything else was what Gavin had told me. I had 5 years of trust in Frasier, trust that he swears he did not break. Then suddenly, the day I tell my parents that Frasier and I just had a fight and we'd sort it out eventually, Gavin turns up with even more evidence. Conveniently left in his best friend's apartment at that. Conveniently without a password. I thought I was going crazy until I went downstairs and Gavin was waiting. Then he tells me that he would always be there for me. I should not get too torn up about Frasier because Gavin and I had a lot more history, and he would never betray me. That he would help me pick up the pieces now that I was home. Then he tried to kiss me. Of course, I pushed him away. My entire life is falling apart and you want me to make a move on me? After 25 years of friendship? I pushed him away and I told him to leave, and then I left too, because I couldn't just stand there and think about everything that just happened. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went home. Frasier was there, obviously, but for the first time this week when I asked him what happened, I listened to what he said. He wasn't texting anyone that night. He'd already shown me his text and had never even had a second phone. He never left the house during work hours, which is the only time when I'm not home. He doesn't remember a thing about leaving the club. He just remembers Gavin and Cody giving him a drink after drink after drink, then waking up in Cody's apartment feeling like a train hit him. He said it didn't feel like a regular hangover, and it took, way too long to wear off. I don't know what to think anymore, but I can think of 2 people who know what happened and might be holding back the whole story. I'm not throwing away 5 years of my life until I know what that is. Update number 4. If you told me 2 weeks ago that Cody, being in denial about his relationship with Vera ending would be useful, I would have laughed in your face, and now I know better. The day after I spoke to Frasier about the possibility that Gavin and Cody were holding back the truth, I went back to my parents' house. If there was something else going on here, I didn't want them to think that I was on to them before I had a proper plan. That's where Vera came in. Vera was the only one of my friends who had met Frasier before all of this. She was also the only one in our group who, like me, had actually left town for college. Everyone else had been together all these years. Aside from being my best friend, she was also the only one that we could trust with this to not be in one scheme to set Frasier up. She found everything I told her very sketchy, too. The screenshot dating profile, pictures, and very much particular, it was she who volunteered to try to get information out of Cody. From what she told me, it wasn't even hard. The second she asked him about it after inviting him out to dinner, he squealed like a pig. He bragged about it and he told her about all Gavin's great plans to get Frasier out of the picture so that he and I could finally be together, quote, like we always were meant to. But I've just, quote, been too blind to see. Cody had been the one who suggested the fake dating and phone profile, and he said that if they could make it look like Frasier was cheating, I would leave him and Gavin would be the one to shoulder cry. Gavin wanted to take it a step further. I needed to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. I wasn't about to make Frasier deal with him, and I was going to do it myself. He still lives next door to my parents' house, so it was a familiar drive. When he answered the door and saw me close to tears, he must have thought that I was there to cry about Frasier. When I asked him if everything Cody had said was true, if he had really set Frasier up, he had the audacity to look angry. I should have been grateful. Apparently, I should have been seen what he did as a blessing that it was. I should have realized that I was wasting my time with Frasier when I was supposed to be with Gavin the whole time. If I had, he would not have gone through the trouble of taking Frasier out and drugging his drink and hiring a woman to make out with him. Instead, I told Gavin that I was grateful. I was grateful that he would step outside to have this conversation. I was grateful that he'd spoken loud and clear, perfect for the phone that Frasier was holding at my front door to catch. I told him I was grateful that he admitted to drugging my fiancé on camera because it would have been hard to prove it otherwise. It's been 3 days since Gavin was arrested. Frasier and I launched a police report shortly after the incident I described above. With the video confession, it's unlikely that Gavin will be able to shake this off. I don't know how I'm going to be able to either. A month ago, I wanted nothing more for my fiancé to love my friends and for them to love him back. Today, I don't even know who those friends are. Not anymore. I don't know how to apologize to Frasier for not trusting him. He says it's not my fault, given the video, but I don't know if this guilt will fade. He was drugged, vulnerable, and I blamed him. The only thing I'm grateful for is that he's willing to work on it, together. If you read this far, and you've been the one of the many individuals to leave a supportive comment or message, thank you. I don't think there's gonna be another update, but guys, please tell me this. Do you think I made the right choice, and what would you do if you found yourself in my peculiar position? Thank you, and goodbye.